Welcome to Level Up with Kia Baxter. Well, you'll discover purpose is a lifelong journey and requires an individual's commitment to self-development. Join me as I share my personal stories and tools on how you can constantly go to the next level. Hey, this is Kia Baxter, and I am so excited about this first episode of Level Up with Kia Baxter. This podcast is brought to you by Crowd Control Entertainment, who's helping you to design success. So I know that you guys are wondering who I am and what this whole thing is about. And I'm just ready to really share with you all the things that I have to say. I've got so much information that I want to share, and even my personal stories. For a lot of you who actually do know me, you know that I've been traveling and I speak a lot, but you don't really get to know a lot of my backstory and who I am, where I come from, who my people be, and all of that good stuff, right? And so I want to share with you my personal story so that you can just have the whole background of it. I am originally from Atlanta, Georgia. I am an original Georgia peach. I get asked that all the time. People are like, no, you're not from Atlanta. I don't know anybody from Atlanta, but I actually am from Atlanta, Georgia. Grew up in the Pittsburgh area, which is now called, off of the street called Metropolitan Avenue. And back in the day, it used to be Stewart Avenue. And it was a pretty rough neighborhood. You know, I used to have to walk past all the prostitutes, all the drug addicts. And I went to Capitol View Elementary School from the kindergarten all the way up to the 5th grade. And at an early age, you know, a little bit about me is that I've always been this bubbly person. I've always had a great personality, even in the midst of all of the different stuff that I saw. And that is attributed to my amazing mom, who was always optimistic no matter what it is that we went through. I didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth. I went through a lot in terms of not having it all. We actually moved around a whole lot. And one of the things that my mom was committed to was making sure that I stayed at the same school. And so I really thank her for that, because it provided some stability for me. And the other thing is, even though we didn't have a lot and, you know, we found ourselves at some points in life being in shelters, she always made sure that I felt beautiful and made sure that I had positive affirmations around me. She was always speaking life into me. And so at a very young age, even though I saw a lot and experienced a lot of things that were negative, I was still able to encourage people that were around me. So even as early as in the kindergarten, you know, we had a project that was, they told us to write to the soldiers who had went over to the Gulf War and the Persian Gulf War. And I didn't really even understand what that meant. But all I knew was that they told us that these men had went off to fight in the war and we needed to write a note to them. And the thing that I said to them was, I love you and I want you to come home. And they thought that was so amazing that the newspaper came, Atlanta Journal-Constitution was there, and I was on the front page of the newspaper. And so I was always like this golden child. I really didn't understand it, but you know, and now I do as an adult, that it was a special calling on my life to inspire people to be optimistic, even as a young person. And so in terms of purpose, I know a lot of people ask me, you know, how did you discover your purpose? How did you become an inspirational speaker? And one of the things that I like to say is that I've really been doing it all my life. Like my entire life, I've been speaking life into people, and it really stemmed from my mom instilling in me that you can still be happy in the midst of obstacles in your life. And the second thing that I can attribute that to is that I grew up in the church. I grew up in church, and I don't remember walking down the aisle and saying, I want to be saved. I just remember always being saved and always having a connection to God, and always, you know, knowing that He was going to be on my side. So I always encourage people to have an amazing spiritual backing as well, because that definitely helps you when you are going through something. So fast forward, I also was, in the fifth grade, I also was one of those students that was, really didn't excel academically, but because I was the golden child and people just liked me, I, was in a commercial for the Olympics, as well as I won the spelling bee and went to the state championship. And so that's when I really began to learn, like, man, like I could do all things, and I just felt like I was on top of the world. And then my mom decided that she didn't want me to go to the schools that was in that same area. So I wound up transferring to a school in Buckhead, and it changed my life, because it showed me that there was more to life than walking past all of these prostitutes and all of these drug addicts, that there were students that were out there that were just like me, that thought like me, that were optimistic like me. And it really changed the way I thought about life. I thought about people, and it helped me to expand my mindset when it came to that. And so, fast forward again, I started working when I was 14, when I was getting ready to go into the ninth grade. I started volunteering at the YMCA. And I'm telling you this because I'm setting it up in a way, because this is a question that I always get asked, how did you get started? So when I was going to the ninth grade, I volunteered at a summer camp that was in, it was a new development. For people who are from Atlanta, about East Lake Meadows, which was one of the worst hoods in Atlanta. And they tore it down and created like a new development, right? And so when I went there, my mom actually was working for the new development, and she said, "Oh, you should volunteer here." And I'm one of those people that when I do something, I do it, I go hard at it. And so when I went there when I was 14, I really started really loving working with the kids, and I created little routines and songs for them to sing, so much that the workers took notice, and the manager came to me one day and said, "Girl, we have to pay you." At 14 years old, they couldn't even hire me, but they started paying me underground to actually be a CIT, which was like a counselor in training, right? And so from there on, when we went into the school year, my ninth grade year, I was actually working as a youth advocate and started a group, a non-smoking group, because I was so against cigarettes, and I was doing all this stuff. And that's when I discovered that my love for community, that I really loved helping people, that I really loved to do things for the community. And so when you talk about purpose and God's original intent for your life, I believe that as you journey in your life, you'll see snippets of what you are supposed to do from your childhood. And so now as an adult, when I look back, I can say, man, you know what? I've been doing this all my life. I started my own clubs and different stuff like that when I was 14 years old, working in the community when I was 14 years old. And what happens is, the only thing that happens is that we start losing sight of what it is that we're supposed to do because of different things that happen in our lives, and we begin to focus more on that than what we were called to do from the very beginning. So let me keep going. Fast forward. Okay. Once I got I went to North Atlanta High School, which was a performing arts school. And like I said, I've always been a flamboyant kid or flamboyant person, love to have fun, love to dance, love to sing. And so when I went to North Atlanta, I had to audition, and I went to audition for dance. And I got into the school at North Atlanta High School. And when I was 16, I auditioned for a dance group called the Rascals Crew and became a background dancer for them with Electric Records. And man, you could not tell me that I was not going to be on somebody's stage touring the world right now, maybe dancing background for Beyonce. Okay. You could not tell me, because we were taken out of school. We were traveling with this group. And then, I decided that I didn't want to do that anymore. And I wanted to audition for a singing group. So then when I got into this singing group, I made it. We opened up for Patti LaBelle, Ruben Studdard, Mary J. Blige, all the way from when I was 16 up until I was 19 years old. That didn't really work out because my manager was, was, trying to hit on all of us, and be with us. And I, wreaked some havoc up in there. Like, listen, I'm not about that life. So I broke my contract, and I still was doing different stuff as far as in the performance world. But it was like God was telling me, no, this isn't it. I just didn't feel fulfilled. I just didn't feel happy with it. And so all of my jobs after that really had a lot to do with community-based stuff. I started working for Hands on Atlanta and became a youth coordinator for Hands on Atlanta. Then I got into property management, where I was doing community stuff with them as well. And from there, I started, I have a love for fashion. So then I started, going into fashion. And why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because a lot of times, this is the same thing that a lot of you do, is that you discover that this is what you're passionate about, but then you venture off because you say, man, listen, this ain't making me no money. And I don't know if you like me. I like the quaint. Okay. I like to make a little money. So I was like, let me go and start this, fashion line or what have you. And that didn't even work out. It wasn't until I was at my church and I saw that they needed some help with the youth. And I said, you know what? I'm going to help you guys with this particular area, right? I helped them, and I only wanted to do it for a little while, but I didn't realize that it was a setup by God for me to be developed into the woman that I am today. It was pruning some things out of me. And this is what I call a sit down moment. Sometimes God will sit you down and take you away from those things that are making money and, where you think is so glamorous. He'll sit you down and say, no, there are some things that you need to prune so that I can prepare you for your next level. See, we always think that there's only one destination in life, and that's just not the truth. There's something that I call the now purpose, and I call the future purpose. The now purpose is where you're supposed to be right now, developing and understanding that this is the area that I need to really hone into and say, what is the lesson that God is trying to teach me? Sometimes those sit down moments, they are not comfortable moments because they don't feel right. You may not be making the money that you want. You may not, be in the house that you want. You may not be in the car that you want to be in, but God is saying, no, baby, I'm preparing you for that house. I'm preparing you for that car. I'm preparing you for that career that you've always wanted. So sit down for a second, take in everything that I'm teaching you in this moment, and then you'll be able to move forward. And that's exactly what happened with me when I was over teen ministry. I learned that I wasn't the people person that I thought that I was. As a matter of fact, I learned that I ain't really like people because I had went through so much in the church, and there was so many people that were talking about me that they didn't feel that I can do it. And I was fighting really the whole system. And actually, I wanted to resign probably about 3 or 4 times. I went to my pastor and wanted to resign. And he began to remind me that I was appointed for a specific reason. And let me tell you something. I want you to know that as well. What God has appointed you for, it's only for you. And there is nobody that can do what you can do the way that you can do it. And it was the same thing with me. I came in there. There were youth pastors before me. I was the only female. I came in there, and that teen ministry turned from 30 kids coming to that church to 150 kids coming every Sunday, and on Wednesdays coming 75 kids coming every Wednesday. And so it taught me a lesson that, man, if I just stay the course, I will be in direct alignment with what God wants me to do. And so I'm always going to bring God to the forefront, because I know that my life would not be the same without him. And I allow him to guide me in every step of my life. And so from teen ministry, I'm just taking you through a timeline of my life, right? From teen ministry, actually, that was only 4 years ago when I resigned from that position, but it was time. It was time for me to resign. God gave me the go because he deemed me as being ready to launch out into doing other things. And when I launched out, that's when I really discovered that, man, man, I really learned some things. Like I really learned, it really prepared me for where I am today. I really learned the patience that I needed. I really learned that I was capable of speaking in front of large groups of people. I really learned that I was capable of being a great leader. And I learned how to duplicate myself with other people as well. And so, if you're a believer in the Bible, you know that God said, go out into the nations and make disciples, teaching them my ways. And so I live by that principles. Great leaders create great leaders. And so, it really trained me in that area. Okay. So fast forward, after I left, I'm going to be honest. It got worse before it got better, because once I resigned, it was like all hell, if I can say that word, hell broke loose. Okay. It was like, man, everything that could have went wrong. I wasn't under the covering that I was used to. Fear began to take on, I began to take on this like spirit of fear and launching out on my own, because I was so used to, being under my pastor. But when I really became empowered and made a decision to become fearless, that's when I really saw my career take off. When I really made a decision to say, yes, okay, you know what? I'm going to get out of this boat and I'm going to step out in the water and I'm going to keep walking towards the vision that God has given me. That's when I really saw the manifestation of everything that I was imagining happen. And so that's the same thing for you guys. You've got to get out of the boat. You have to get out of the boat and you have to walk on the water and know that you will not sink. You will not sink. God will not allow us to sink. I'm very connected, because one of the things I always like to talk about is imagination, because I just believe that it is through our imagination that God is speaking. A lot of times our imagination is shaped by things that we see, by, our experiences and all of that. But imagination also is shaped by what God is showing us. And if you just take a few seconds, throughout your day to just allow yourself to daydream. And for me, I like to do it at night. I like to just lay there and just daydream and allow God to deposit, new ideas, new creative things into my mind and into my heart and into my spirit. If you will allow that to happen, then you will, and also write it down. God says, write the vision, make it plain. So make sure you write it down. And I'm telling you, if you begin to walk in that direction, even though you don't know what's going to happen, you will begin to see the things that you want for your life manifest in every single way. And so, what I experienced after that first year, I resigned from, being youth pastor. Once I really got to the point where I said, you know what, God, nothing I'm doing is working. And I really yielded to him. That's when I went and got certified as a life coach. And man, after that, it's like my business really took off. I went and got certified. I was able to gain new clients. I posted it all on social media and it just took off like wildfire. So my business has really been booming and doing great for the past 3 years. But last year, I'm going to be honest, I, was in a weird place. For the first time, I was traveling all around the country. I was really getting paid for all of my gigs, and I was still not happy. And I didn't understand it. I was like, you know what? Why am I not happy? What's happening? And as I had a lot of clients last year that definitely told me that in 2018, for some reason, they were experiencing depression. And I saw that in a lot of people, that they were experiencing some weird stuff like, what am I supposed to be doing in life? Where am I supposed to be going? What is happening? I don't understand it. And that's what happened to me. And so I was doing all this traveling. Everybody's telling me, great job. You're doing some amazing things. And I'm looking like, I ain't happy. It's not good enough for me. There has to be more. And then I started feeling like, am I not grateful? What is wrong? And so after my birthday, which is in August, I made a decision to take a sabbatical. And a sabbatical is just really just taking a break, just sitting down, like I said, the sit down moment, just deciding to really take a break and really allow God to speak. And so I made some sacrifices. I didn't watch TV. I didn't really go anywhere. And I just wanted to be committed to getting clarity in my life of what my purpose was supposed to be. Because like I said, remember, it's not just one destination. It's a lifelong journey. Really doing what God wants you to do is a lifelong journey. And that requires a great level of sacrifice and self-development. And so I had to look at myself and say, what is it, God, that I'm not doing right, that I'm not happy? Why am I not happy? And what I discovered was that I was doing everything that I wanted to do. I had gotten caught up in the whole social media world and posting pictures and, traveling like, hey, look at Kia, look at what she's doing, and I had lost sight of the vision that God had given me. And then also I realized that there was so much more that I wanted to say, but in its entirety, I hadn't completely said yes to my purpose. And so God is saying, you know what? I want you to say yes to my purpose. And sometimes that's not going to feel comfortable. And what do I mean by that? I went on this sabbatical and it was everything that God had already been showing me. I have a women's empowerment group as well. And I was trying to do these seminars, purpose discovery. I'm like, I want to make money and all of these things. And God is saying, no, you need to incorporate what I have taught you. And so as soon as I got off of this sabbatical, the first thing that God wanted me to do was to pray with the ladies. And so I called this Powerhouses Pray, and the response was amazing. So you see, I was afraid to do this prayer with the ladies because I was like, I didn't want people to label me as being like this person who is just so super spiritual that they could not relate to me. And so God was like, no, people are going to relate to you with you just being who you are authentically. And so I want to share that. I want you to recognize that you just being who you are authentically is always going to be enough. You never have to be concerned about what other people are going to think. If God is telling you to do it, you need to do it. Like I said before, step out on the water and you will see the manifestation of everything that you want happen. And as soon as I called this prayer, and this was just in December, because my sabbatical was only supposed to be for 30 days. I said, I'm going to do it for 30 days. 30 days turned into 60 days, and 60 days turned into 90 days. And after those 90 days, it changed my life completely. And so now I'm at the place where I'm comfortable with being Kia Baxter. I am Kia Baxter. What you see is what you get. I am committed to doing exactly what God wants me to do. I recognize and realize that everything in my life happened for a reason. It wasn't always the prettiest. Like I told you before, I didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth, a golden spoon, or however you want to call it. I didn't grow up with that. As a matter of fact, I didn't share some of the stuff. I'm going to go back a little bit. I grew up seeing my mom be abused. I grew up, like I said, we were homeless. We were in shelters. And I found myself at the age of 23 being in the same situation where I was actually in an abusive relationship, and I found myself being homeless as well. And this was an interesting situation because I made the decision when I was in this abusive relationship to leave it completely. Well, at the time, the guy was paying my rent. He was, had access to my car, and it was just like one of those years that was just like probably the worst year that I've ever had. And I wound up not having a place to stay, but I did have my car. And so one day when I was, I was staying in like a gas station, and I just got tired of sitting there, and I was so tired. I came out of this gas station, and when I came out of the gas station, the police officer pulled me over because I didn't have my lights on. And so I'm like, why are you pulling me over? The police officer pulled me over, and come to find out, my license was actually suspended. And so the police officer came back to the car like, you're going to jail. And I'm like, what in the world? I already just lost everything. And now you're telling me I've got to go to jail, and I've never been to jail before. That was a whole situation. Got out of jail, and I decided, man, you know what? I want to go to this women's conference. I went to this women's conference at my church. And when I went to this women's conference, there was this lady that gave me her number. And she said to me, here, I just want to give you my number. If you need anything, please call me. And at the time when she gave me the number, I definitely was not, paying any attention because, like I said, I was experiencing so much hateration from the people at the church that I just was like, she just want to get in my business or whatever. And, but when I went back, like I said, I didn't have a place to stay. So I went after this whole jail ordeal. I went and stayed at a family member's house, and something crazy happened, and the family member wound up attacking me just out of nowhere. And I was just like, this is nothing but the devil. And when it happened, the first person that I could think of to call was this woman. Right. And so I called this lady, and I mean to tell you, like, she got there at like in 10 minutes. And when she got there, she was ready to book. She was like, what's up? And now mind you, I don't know this lady. So like when she came, she was ready, like who we got to fight, what we got to do, And so I went to her house. She took me to her house. This woman had a room prepared for me. I don't think y'all hear what I'm saying. She had a room prepared for me. And she said, listen, I already knew this was going to happen. I want you to just stay here in this room, and I want you to rest. And that was like, if you don't love God or know God, like for me, that was a moment where I really recognized the grace and the love that God had on my life. And from there, it was like I did exactly what she said. I rested, and I didn't have to work. My license was suspended for 6 months, so I couldn't, really do anything because I didn't have transportation. And it was like a start over. It was like God was starting over. So I want to encourage those people today who feel like life is just, everything is going wrong. Like you can't recover. You can't, nothing is going right, and you don't understand what your purpose is and how you can work out your purpose. One of the things that happened to me when I was resting at her house was that I started really getting my hope back. I started being able to see, you know what? There's something that God has in store for me, that he keeps allowing me these second chances over and over and over again, that he would have this stranger take me into her house. So there's got to be something that he has for my life. I don't know completely what it is, but I know there's something powerful that God has in store for me. And what I did was I started to become more committed to what it is that God wanted for my life than the situations and the circumstances that were surrounding me. And I still live my life that way. Remember when I talked about imagination? Imagination is that place where you dream, where God is depositing your life as it's supposed to be, right? He's depositing those things into your life. And so you've got to be committed to knowing that you can definitely have everything that you imagine. And that was for me speaking that, even though it scared me, I saw all of those things, but my life didn't reflect it. At that moment, my life didn't reflect that I was going to be speaking across the country. My life didn't reflect that I was going to be at the time, a year ago, it was the Purpose Powerhouse, that I was going to start my own business, and that I was going to have clients like Home Depot doing leadership training. My life did not reflect that. And I'm telling you that it doesn't matter what your life reflects right now. You've got to be committed to knowing that God, when God has spoken and he's shown you the vision, that he will provide, that there is going to be provision for your life. And so, for me, I just get so excited because I never know what my next journey is going to be. And I'm okay with that because I'm committed to seeing it through. I'm committed to committed to my purpose because I understand that my purpose is not just about me. It's about, those people who, don't have a voice, those people who are afraid to speak up, those people who are afraid to come out of their shells. And when they hear my story that, man, I'm human too, that I've been homeless too, that I've been in an abusive relationship too, when they hear my story, it becomes encouragement. I know that it's not about me. It's about my children and my children's children, and about the generational curses that will be broken because I said yes to my purpose. I said yes to God's will. I said yes to God's way of doing things. And because of that, I'm going to change the whole trajectory of a generation, not only of my life, but of a generation. And that is powerful. That is powerful. When you understand and recognize the power and the authority that you have on this earth to break those things up off of you, those cycles up off of you, you don't allow things to bother you the way that they did in the past. One of the things that I always say is, there's an enemy. There's going to be an enemy to your dream. There's always an enemy to the dreams that we have. And so it's just a matter of how you view it and how you confront it. Confront that enemy every single time. You've got to replace every negative thought with what God says about you, with positivity. And so that's why I love doing affirmations. I love, affirming myself. Like I said, in an early age, I'm so thankful that my mom did this, but she affirmed me, even though I was walking down the street, through these prostitutes and through these drug dealers and all this stuff. I had a very positive view. One day I'm not going to be here. I am, more than just this situation. I am amazing. I will own my own business. I will have my own Fortune 500 company. And I still do that. I still, say that my company is going to grow into a Fortune 500 company because I truly believe it. It's what I see for my life, because I'm committed to seeing what God wants me to do. I'm committed to living it out and walking it out. Okay. And so, that's a little quick story of like who I am, where I come from, why I believe the way that I believe. And I think that, I'm super excited about, just this journey of talking about, just sharing my different stories, talking about the different stuff that I've experienced that will help you to really stay committed and stay on task of leveling up. The level up, I know a lot of people now say level up, but we equate it to sometimes materialistic things, and it really has nothing to do with materialistic things. It has everything to do with your development in life. As you develop, you will see that everything that you need will be drawn to you. You will become a magnet to success. And that's what happened to me. I didn't have to go out here and say, book me, book me, book me. I became a magnet to success because I said, you know what? I'm going to develop myself. I got to prune, during that time when I went through, like I said, I had a abusive relationship. I had to go through counseling. I realized that I had some residue that was on me. So it hindered me in, my relationships. I wasn't as nice as I should have been in my relationships because I had residue. And so, a lot of times we go throughout life and we're just masking the things that we've been through, and we don't take the time out to deal with those issues so that we can move forward to be the best version of ourselves. So that's what the level up is about. The level up is really about you developing yourself. You don't have to, blame what somebody else did. That's their journey. And, one of the biggest lessons that I've learned in life is that you cannot put expectations on people. You cannot put expectations on people. When you put expectations on people, you are setting yourself up to be hurt. You are really setting yourself up to be hurt. Now, what you can do is set a standard for yourself that says, I will not allow this in my space. Right. And so, because a lot of times, and the reason why I say you can't put expectations on people is because people can only give you what they're capable of doing in that moment. So they may not have the education or the sophistication to give you what it is that you need. So if they're not an effective communicator, a lot of times they haven't learned how to be an effective communicator, because, let's be real. A lot of us didn't learn that when we were growing up. It was, you were told, be quiet, just keep it move. Like you don't ask any questions. You just go with the flow. And so a lot of people are not effective communicators. So you can't expect somebody to give you something that they don't have. But what you can do is set a standard for yourself that says, you know what, I've been developed in this area and I'm not allowing anybody to level me down. I'm going to keep going back up. Keep going forward. And so you've got to surround yourself around those people who are like-minded, who are, who think like how you think, and who desire to see the best in you. And so that was one of the biggest lessons that I had to learn in life, is that, and that's one of the reasons why I became a coach as well, is because I understood that so many people needed this type of development in their life, and that I don't have to be disappointed when people, don't really live up to what I want them to live up to. That I can be like, you know what, it's just a matter of them being developed. They haven't been developed in this area. And so I'm able to put them in a place, it may not be, super close to me or in my super, circle or whatever, but it's going to be in a place that's like, I see what development you need. And that's okay. Like, you don't have to, because I know a lot of people like to say, I'm cutting people off, I'm going to cut you off or whatever. And you don't even have to do that. Once you recognize where a person is, you take it for what it is. What is it that Oprah said? When somebody shows you who they are, you believe them. And so you take it for what it is and you move forward accordingly. Okay. Because being the best leader or being the best version of yourself is going to require you to have an understanding of the way people work. And that's one of the things that I'm moving into in this year, which I'm really excited about. I told you before that, everything changed after I came off of this sabbatical. Everything that I was doing before, it was like God really was like, nah, that's not it. It's time for you to do something else. Really getting back to the root of what I was created to do. And one of those things is definitely leadership. I love to train. And so you're going to see a lot of me doing leadership trainings, and really doing stuff that's community based as well. Remember, I said before that your purpose really stems from, you'll see remnants of that from when you were a child. And so I want to challenge everybody that's listening today to go back to those things that you have been doing, that you were passionate about when you were a kid, because we lose sight of that because, the bills got to get paid. And, I got to take care of my husband, my wife, my kids, and all of this different stuff. And we lose sight of that, and we lose sight of ourselves and what we were designed to do. So go back and think about what was going on when you were a child and what you really wanted to do. And you'll find that those same passions are passions that you have even now, that you have allowed to die, but they're never going to die in the back of your mind, and they're never going to die in your imagination. They're never going to die because God wants them to live, and God wants you to create that legacy. He wants you to do something different and start something new. And I'm telling you, it's going to feel uncomfortable, and it's going to be a little scary. It's not that we don't get afraid. We get afraid, but we become fearless. We don't allow fear to stop us, right? And so it's not going to feel like, what you're comfortable with, and that's okay. You should be okay with that. For me, I take on challenges head on. I love it. I love when I have a challenge. For me, I couldn't really imagine, I saw it as a kid, me speaking in front of large audiences, but I couldn't really imagine it because I used to be so afraid, and I would get anxiety, and I still get afraid now. Even now, people who know me know that I'm like, I have to be amped up, and I have different little ways that I amp myself up. And it's because I have a little nervousness, and that's okay. But I love it because afterwards I'm like, man, I conquered it and I accomplished it. And so that's what the level up is really about, man, accomplishing those things that scare you, taking them head on and becoming a great leader. And everybody is a leader in their own right. You know, whether if it's in your household, whether if it's on your job, whether if it's even in your small circle of friends, you want to be that voice of reason for people so that they can level up. For me, I like when my friends level me up. I like when my friends empower me and inspire me. I like to see them be promoted because I'm like, you know what? I'm next. I'm next. I'm not too far behind them. And that's the type of life that you should want to see for yourself. I'm so happy that I'm not a product of how I was raised. I'm so happy that I didn't allow myself to be a product of my abuse. I'm so happy that I didn't allow myself to be a product of what was before me, the generations that were before me. I was committed to seeing it through. I was committed and still am committed to seeing my life be the best life ever. You know, so when we say living your best life, you got to constantly be on a journey to live your best life. And living your best life is really being full of joy, full of peace, full of happiness, and full of life. Like, you know, not just for a moment or not just for a season, but on a constant roller coaster. I'm not roller coaster, or constant, what do you say? Just constant going to the next level. Okay. So making sure that you are doing that. And that really stems from you saying, man, I got to prune some things up out of me. This anger, where is it stemming from? This hate, where is it stemming from? Why am I not happy? You know, you've got to question those things about yourself. And we're going to get into that in some of the next episodes. I just really wanted to share more of who I am and more of my story and how I got to where I am, so that you can understand that it is not peaches and cream. And even now it's not peaches and cream. I still have challenges in my life, but the difference is that I view them differently. And like I said, I tackle them head on because I understand that as long as I'm on this earth, there's going to be people, there's going to be situations, there's going to be circumstances that try to pull me off of the path that God has for me, but I am not going to allow it. I have allowed myself to become unstoppable. I constantly am reminding myself on all the time that I am purposed to be amazing, that I am purposed to be great, that I will change the trajectory of my generation and generations to come. So I'm super excited about what's about to happen and what you guys are going to learn through this journey. And like I said, I'm going to be sharing more of my stories. And listen, if you have any questions or if you have any thing that you want to ask me or any topics that you want me to speak on, I welcome them. I really want you to join me in this process because I want to be transparent. I want to be open. These are the things that I don't get a chance to talk about when I'm doing my speaking engagement. These are the things that we don't get to talk about. Even, you know, being in ministry, sometimes we're not as transparent. And so this is a space for me. I don't care if I use the wrong grammar. I don't care. It's just Kia Unfiltered. And I'm excited about it. So feel free to, just give me your feedback, your questions, your comments. I welcome them all. And before I leave, I just want to give you this affirmation. This is my time. This is my moment to accomplish and fulfill my God-given purpose. There is no situation, there is no circumstance that can get me off of my course. I am amazing. I am unstoppable. I will change the trajectory of my life. I will change the trajectory of generations to come. I will do everything that God has created me to do. So listen, go and be great. Understand that the level up is about you really developing yourself, taking that time, spending time with yourself to say, you know what? I'm not a product of what my mama, my daddy, my cousin, my uncle said that I was going to be, or negative things that people have said that you were going to be, but that I am everything that God has called me to be. So go in your day knowing that you are about to level up in every aspect of your life. And you're going to do that on purpose. You have to be intentional about making sure that you get the development that you need so that everybody around you wins. Not only you win, but everything connected to you will win. And I'm going to go ahead and declare that for you in Jesus' name. All right. So have a great one. And I look forward to hearing from you soon. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of Level Up with Kia Baxter. I would love to stay connected with you. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram at I am Kia Baxter. For upcoming events and products, visit my website at IamKiaBaxter.com.